Allora, perché sei qui stasera?
Per aspettare almeno Rush, appunto vedere Ron Howard, vedere Chris Hemsworth e soprattutto Daniel Bruhl.
Qual è l'attore che preferisci di questo cast?
Daniel Bruhl.
No, quello che fa James Hunt.
No, Daniel Bruhl. Assolutamente.
Male, grazie.
Characters who are being tested in unusual or surprising ways. So I search for that in stories, and of course in extreme cope with that possibility in various ways, and it's always fascinating to me. I thought both of these characters had a very interesting perspective on death, as probably any Formula One driver, particularly in the 70s, must have had. But I thought that Lauda's in particular was so fascinating. I was going to ask Daniel to talk about this because it's something that I think is so essential to the movie, because there's an element of surprise in his perspective.
The 20%. Safety in Formula One improved so much, and he was kind of one of the first ones who started all that. So fortunately, after Senna, there wasn't any more accident.
So a far more visceral, gut instinct, intuitive approach, and that also was consistent right through his life. I think if he felt something and there was a desire or a need to do something, he would do it, from a very physical standpoint. There were, which led into the extremes, you're asking about, I think. And also what these guys did, they lived with this threat of death, and Nicky would calculate that fear. James would try and avoid it. And I think by indulging in other activities, whether that was, drinking or the women or whatever. But a lot of those guys, I think, they had to find an outlet to it, for that fear. And, a number of guys in the 70s and prior were dying every season, and I mean, their combat statistics. And what was the
personally?
Yeah, I think what I relate to with, I think, what these guys do is, that fear of death, there's an immediacy that gives you, and it forces you to be in the present. If death is the alternative to not focusing, then you're probably going to focus. And, in a world where you're constantly thinking about tomorrow or next week or the future or the past, not so much right now, activities like that snap us into the moment and force us to be 100% present, I think, appealing on a number of levels, and I don't take it to the extremes that these guys do, but anything that forces me to focus on right now and not somewhere else is refreshing. Yeah.